Hey, Patron Hangout time! Patron Hangout time. It's where our patrons, those who join us at patreon.com/Clix, get to join us and bother us, anoint us with their wonderful, loving questions. As little as $1, as little as a penny gets you in on this. So, if you want to get in on this monthly, semi-monthly, occasionally happens, Patron Hangout, get on in. Have I babbled enough about it?
I guess so.
You guess so? You're the best supporting cast I've ever had in my life, Amber.
I am.
I appreciate
awesome.
Every show we do together all the time. And I never feel awkward from the silences and non-answers you give me.
Yay.
All right. Sarcasm has been appointed. Our patron who has joined us on the show, Mike. Alpha
Hey,
patron. The Alpha and the Omega. I'm sure he'll be the first and the last at this rate. All right. Take the show away, Mike. What's your first question?
Alrighty, so question one, I guess I'm noticing amongst the groups and communities that I play with are all really want to talk about the new rules changes and everything like that. I want to start out by asking, is there like a support group among HeroClix judges like that? What do you hear amongst your sort of like judge peers type of, if there is anything like that of the sort? And are you guys confident that you'll get the new rules down? Because with everything changing, it falls upon you guys to have your stuff together when everything changes up like that. So what's it like, kind of talking amongst the other judges and stuff like that? And what do you expect from here on out with the new rules changes?
Take it away, rules girl.
So the funny thing on that is that like a week before they dropped that they were changing all the rules, we had finalized our judge test for the Rock, so that we'd actually have certified judges, so that higher level of professionalism going into the tournaments, where you'd have to have at least one certified judge in each Rock tournament that you're running. And then the rules dropped, and then we're like, okay, so we're gonna have to put that on the back burner until these new rules come out, because there's no point on certifying a whole gaggle of new judges and then turning around and having to recertify everybody, because all the rules are changing. And the rules are changing to such a drastic amount that anything that the judges know right now are kind of inconsequential. So a lot of us are kind of just like sitting on our thumbs waiting, because there's
That
not
sounds
too
uncomfortable. Ow!
Because there's not too much that we can do. Even the rules forum itself has really died down, which is unusual for this time of year, because we're leading into nationals, we're leading into worlds, we're getting into convention season. This should be the time that the rules forum is exploding with questions, and it's just not. It seems like a lot of people are just kind of waiting and looking and hoping to get just the new rules in place. Even every time a new figure is previewed, it's like, okay, this is cool, but how is that going to work under the new rules? Because we've got at least 3 or 4 more sets that are going to use the current wording and terminology before we get to Mighty Thor, where we're starting to see the actual new wording and how everything is going to go about. So we're going to get this big chunk of figures that are almost immediately going to be needing to be errated. And or even just being like, okay, well, this is how X thing is going to work under the new rules. So anybody that has this type of wording, this is what they actually mean. So it just seems like right now there's not too much talk amongst the judges themselves, but everybody's kind of just like, all right, well, let's just get this over with. Like, as much as we do have convention season right now, which is what we're gearing up to, I know me personally, I'm going to actually end up judging Canadian Nationals. So that's what I'm looking at right now, is figuring out all the rules for that. That's where my focus is. And then once that's done, it's like, all right, let's get these new rules out there and let's go for it. As far as us being like the leaders and everything of the new rules. The way it looks right now is that it just seems to be so simplified, and they're really, really looking forward to cutting down on corner cases and bad wording and making everything so universal that it feels like judging is suddenly going to become the easiest job in HeroClix, because they really, really want to force this. Everything makes sense. Everything is unified. Everything is worded exactly the same way. We can only hope that that actually does happen once we start getting special traits and special powers and stuff, and that they stick to this uniform way of doing things. But yeah, I can imagine going forward, once we do have the new rules, once we have the new wording on new characters, the judges are going to have a much easier job going forward. So I think that's what we're really looking forward to right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can handle judging the game the way it is now, handling judging the way the game is going to be child's play, at the very least. I don't see it being any sort of a problem for judges who can handle it right now. I think at worst, you'll get the occasional mistaken ruling based on an old head, where someone would be like, you know, they'll turn to the judge and be like, "Can I prob regen?" Yeah, no!
Wait, no, you can't do that.
Nope, you can't. And then from there, it's going to be a matter of understanding any erratas that are going to come courtesy of what's going to change with the rules. Because as we saw with Avengers Defenders, where there's already a couple people who regenerate. I weird emphasis on that. Who regenerate differently, but now Regenerate's going to regenerate differently. So now, how is that character going to work in conjunction with the new rules? I foresee how they're going to handle it to enough of a degree, but at the same time, are they going to use that logic? Is my logic correct in what they're going to do? I don't know. I said they should copy Wizards of the Coast on a couple things that they're doing, but that was in relation to tournament organization, not in how they're going to make 2 new characters. So.
Hello. Sorry for the late.
Hey, Fabrizio, how you doing?
Hi.
I'm doing fine. I just was hearing you talking about the rules and everything. Everything seems so fine now. It's going to be somewhat easier and harder at the beginning to adapt.
Yep. It's gonna be a.
Yes, that's what we're saying. We're really looking forward to once the rules switch over, because it really is just going to be easier. One of the hardest things, like Jason was saying, is just going from having played the game for so long and getting tripped up on older rulings. Like we're saying with the stuff that we could reroll, like regen or leadership, we can't reroll that anymore under new prob. Hypersonic is going to require possibly 2 breakaway rolls. Not being able to hit somebody with an object while hypersonicking, that's going to take a little getting used to, but I think it'll because it's so simplified, it'll be easier to kind of just get into it. You just really have to play through it with these rules.
The new version of the rock test will be done in crayon.
Don't tell Patrick that.
Why not? Oh, he's listening even. Patrick, if you're listening, crayon. Rock test to be done in crayon. Check for pulse. So. But Fabrizio, did you actually have a question?
First, the question is, what is your opinion on the lack of primes in the new set? And do you think the title character? I read somewhere someone said that title characters are going to be the new primes, for a way to say so. So, what is your opinion on that?
Well, it's all speculation right now at best. A lot of the solicits for the retailers still do have primes listed. I think Avengers Defenders War was an exception to make room for shifting focus, so it felt less irritating that I think there was 4 or 5 shifting focus
there's
characters.
7.
7. There's 7 shifting focus characters. Most other sets that have had shifting focus, well, the one set that had shifting focus characters had 2 shifting focus characters. But there's 7, and some of them only have 2 versions of the character.
Yeah, actually, most of them only have 2 versions, and the only one that has 3 is Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
All the other ones are just 2 characters. So it's taking up a common and uncommon slot. But even then, we have more commons, uncommons, rares, and super rares than we've had in any other set. There's 16 super rares in this set.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
we usually get, like, what, 8?
Yeah. And
Double the amount of super rares?
if you look at the trend design-wise, what the big push right now that seems to be happening, long-term, no resources. But also long-term, characters will be the basis of what's off of the board in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, we're seeing all these sideline characters for shifting focus or other such things. So what's going to happen, future-sighted, is that where the complexity is going to start coming into the game is making the choice on which of the shifting focus characters in a lot of cases are happening. As well, if you actually look at the prime slot itself, you have 4 characters in a set when you have them as primes that can't be used together, which means that's 4 figures that can each only be on an individual team. So if they're going to stress, using more figures from your collection, limiting your 1 per team type of figure to title characters is actually a good route to go, especially if they're going to stick them just solely in the super rare slot, because that's not at the chase level, that's not at the prime level. There'll be expensive super rares for sure, but if we're going to get more super rares, they're replacing that prime slot with extra high rarity cards or characters, and we already knew that primes were high rarity. Where it hurts is where people are going to be like, where they treated primes like chases. And in some degrees, some of them got more expensive than that in the world of like Jakeem Thunder and Nighthawk Prime. Yeah. So what'll end up happening is, in the eye of the player, your expected value on opening goes down. And I'm getting into the financial level now, and I've been watching way too much Alpha Investments, because what ends up happening is you open your case, and because you only got 1 chase, you didn't get a prime. What you see in your eyes as a player and a collector is less money that you can trade, buy, sell for, right? And ultimately that mindset will shift to, oh my gosh, super rares are going to go up in value again, which I think they should be doing, and super rares should be, in their design sense, the more complex characters, which is happening, but they got to be careful with that complexity being too good thing, right? So long term, if the prime is going away, I'm okay with that. If the design focus is bring more of your collection with you to a tournament, I'm okay with that. And if it's the idea that we're getting rid of this resource stuff and possibly just physically having more characters being brought with you feels like you get more value out of what you own. It's actually why very, very rarely will you see me go and travel to a tournament and play with a team with less than 6 characters. Because if I'm going to travel all this way and I have this big collection, I want to use as much of it as I possibly can at the highest level of play. And I feel like it's catering to my mindset in that case. And if they're listening to me and doing that, I apologize to everybody who doesn't like to play like that. But why do they have 5 figures in a pack if I can't play with 5 figures on a team? Right? Even if they're off the board. So I've rambled. Go, Amber.
Now, like, I am not I'm not a competitive player to the point where Jason has been a competitive player. I do occasionally play in competitive tournaments. But I'm mentally going through the amount of primes that we own, because we've major collected and we've owned pretty much almost every prime. There's been a few super rare primes that have been harder for us to collect.
Actually, since primes have come out, the only prime we haven't owned has been the super rare Batman prime.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I can think of 4, 5 maybe primes that I've ever actually played, and I've only played them because I wanted to play the characters. I wanted to play Power Princess. I wanted to play Peggy Carter, Heather Hudson Sasquatch, Vampire Jubilee. Like, I'm only playing them because they were that rarity. I wasn't playing them because, hey, they were primes. But then in that respect, we had 3 exile primes. So if I want to play an actual exile team, which is what I want to do, I can't because 3 of the characters were primes, which drove me crazy, and to the point where we got like the Squadron Supreme.
And they had to make an
They
ATA
had to make an
for them.
ATA so that you could actually make a Squadron Supreme team. So like primes, I enjoyed the concept of them. I think they had interesting rules to them, the limiting factor of them. But like Jason said, it limited you too much. And if we still get primes, I'm not going to be upset. But if we don't get any more primes, I'm also not going to be upset.
Yeah.
I like being able to, play the characters I want to play together.
As a game designer, I can definitely relate with more design space is better. And less and if you have more design space and more player allowance, you feel better, because that's one of the things that's one of the returns of the job of the game designers. If you're enjoying it, I'm happy because I did my job. That's why we design games, and we want other people to enjoy it, right? And the more and more that you get to enjoy, the better. And now that we rambled at length, I think it's time to give Mike his next question. I hope, Fabricio, you like the answer that we got you.
Yeah, it was nice. It was really nice.
All right, Mike. Oh, sorry.
No, go.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Alrighty. So on that note, you know what else I noticed about that's sort of missing or might be going out of style is the duo pieces. Like I watched the unboxing videos and stuff like that. I don't think unless I fell asleep somewhere, I don't see any duo pieces. And the last duo piece we got was that Iron Fist and Power, Luke Cage one, and that was only like 50 points. All the other duo pieces that I could think of were high up in the Hal Jordan and Sinestro. That was like 300, and those were all overpowered, and those were like real beasts and stuff like that. Do you think the Hero Clix are gonna do away with the duo pieces, or what's the prognosis on that, and what do you foresee in the future as far as the duo pieces?
Well, but before we give up on Avengers Defenders Wars and duos, don't forget this set actually does have the Loki Dormammu duo. So 2 figures on a base is not going anywhere. But the duo attack after World's Finest, that's gone. And I understand the why. And it's all in relation to this new rule set in the future. Simplification. Duo comes with baggage. So much baggage. Part of that is a split and merge mechanic. Part of that is the fact that they can attack twice. And it looks like they're power curbing the game a lot lately. So I do want to point that out for a big reason, is that if they're going to kind of bring the power level down, they can't allow that duo attack or the duo symbol ability to be a part of that, because World's Finest, the duo itself, at 75 points, is capable of doing 7 damage in a single action. That is insane. That is insane in a post Joker's Wild, we'll say, world. Would Joker's Wild be the new design sense, or what was the set before Joker's Wild?
I think Uncanny X-Men kind of starts everything off.
Uncanny X-Men starts it off. So we go Uncanny X-Men, Joker's Wild, Spider-Man, all of these sets. We see the trend where we're probably going to come back to a world of pit crews. We're going to come back to a world of things. This is a transition period, and it's shocking a lot of people. And this kind of shell shock happens when big design changes occur. And it's a big risk that I have to applaud WizKids for taking. I've seen this happen in almost every collectible card game I've played, and every collectible game I've played. And it comes with pluses and minuses every time, and you gotta hope that the pluses outweigh the minuses in every case. Now, a lot of the people shouting from the rooftops in regards to how the point total is being changed, we got to look at where WizKid's design space exists, and that is in 300 points. That's where their balancing state is, and anything beyond that is kind of an afterthought. Now, occasionally they do make characters where you look at it and go, well, in a 600-point game, I'd play this character. That's not their design space, but they do look at that and go, this isn't going to be a competitive piece, but that's allowed to exist as a fun piece. Casual pieces are allowed to exist. It's one of those things. A lot of people say, hey, Jason, you do metafix. You're a meta player. Like, well, not all the time. I know when to turn it on and turn it off. And some players are just competitive HeroClix players. Must win every time. Come up with a super combo. I'm rambling. So duo figures aren't gone, but they aren't duo attack figures anymore. They're just going to make changes to make these characters kind of work within the design space of two characters on this base. Let's give them a certain level of power. Power Man and Iron Fist was a really good experiment, if you ask me. It's a character that switches between two characters. So it kind of feels like there's two characters there, and the right character doing the right thing at the right time is applicable. But they share a health value, which kind of bothers me to a certain degree, too. It's like, is Luke Cage really losing his health at the same rate as Iron Fist? That doesn't feel right. So I applaud them on the experiment, and I want them to keep doing the experiment until they get that design space that feels right for them and whatnot. But as far as going away, I don't think we're going to see them go away. There's too many iconic duels, the Batman and Robins, the Caps and Buckies. All that kind of stuff exists in the world of HeroClix, and it feels good to have them both on the same base. They just have to be careful that it doesn't feel like too much is coming out of that base. Amber, do you want to jump on that?
Yeah, the only other thing to add is when I was doing the Dial It Up live stuff for the rules updates, is they snuck in without actually explaining into one of those rules updates that combat values aren't, or combat abilities aren't a thing anymore. They didn't explain what that means. They just said that combat abilities, so we're talking about carry, flying, like flight, duo attack, multi-attack, like all that extra wording stuff that comes on the other side of the pack apparently doesn't exist anymore.
Well,
now we do know that we have inherent abilities. Carry has been changed from a combat ability to an inherent ability. So a lot of these things are still going to exist. We do know that Domitable is still going to be there. We know that Giant and the sizes are still going to be there. But there's other things that aren't showing up anymore either, like Sharpshooter.
When was the last time we saw a Sharpshooter?
Yeah.
So if you look at that attack dial, how many times have you seen since Joker's Wild, or even since Spider-Man, have we seen one of those special symbols on the attack part? It's just gone.
Yeah.
But that feels like it was a thing that was started with the introduction of the terrain modifications. So ignore terrain for movement, ignore terrain for line of fire. That was all the first step in getting rid of that extra symbol. So all we need is these colors on the card to know, hey, I just ignore a bunch of stuff. And because Sharpshooter currently reads with two symbols.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Like,
it's just an improvement or improved targeting.
Why not just put those symbols on the base? It's not like Outwit touches that stuff anymore. Outwit is very strictly and specifically powers. So, yeah.
Okay, so we'll find out when the rulebook drops what they mean by combat abilities not being a thing anymore. But that could be why we're seeing duo figures without them being duo attack figures.
Yeah. All right, Fabricio, do you have another question for us?
Yes, more than a question is more than a thought. We've seen the lack of resources and relics and such things for a while. We only had the symbiote, the pin particles, and things like that. What if WizKids was waiting to remake the rules to reintroduce new resources with the new rules, since resources were so much a pretty much a must-have in every team? So why not wait until they have the new powers so they can work in a new one? For example, a Pandora box that only gives standard powers, just the standard, or a Rock of Eternity that only gives special powers. So they won't be so strong, but they will be usable.
I honestly, I think at this point they're just reshifting. The equipment stuff is already a replacement for relics, right? And if the Punisher's van is any indicator, we might just see resources be character specific if they do stick around at all. But because they're adding the rules focus is a simplification, I think they want to focus a lot of things on the smaller scale. The equipment itself is all unilaterally focused in the sense that, like, an equipment gives one or two things, maybe three in some cases, like the symbiote, for instance. But that's about it, right? And they're one focus, whereas resources were massively focused, do a bunch of stuff, and then lead to one big thing. In a lot of, I mean, almost every resource had some kind of alpha or omega rather, where you hit the mode, and we all called it God mode because that was the first one we ever had with the Infinity Gauntlet, was Godhood, as it was called, I think, where you get to that level of Infinity Gauntlet, you're always using all the gems, choose a power, plus 2 to all your stats. There was always some kind of equivalency to that on resources. Going into the future, I feel like they looked at resources and said, okay, these things are doing too much, and if we kind of focus it and say, here's equipment, it's each going to do an individual thing, let's kind of focus it that way. Now, they've announced weapons for Thor. Now, my fingers crossed is that their design sense is weapons are equipment, but if you happen to be using a specific character with this particular weapon, it's going to be that much better or that much easier to get your hands on. So like Thor's hammer. If this character is named Thor picking it up, it's a free action. Otherwise, it's a double power action or something to that effect. I feel like if they keep in that direction, then they're showing their hand by saying, we're getting rid of resources, equipments are the new resources. And then as players as a whole, adapting to that is very simple. Power action, I get it. Good. Now I have this. Awesome. It's got to stay a certain way for my starting line. Awesome. Even better. It's really easy to teach a player how to pick up Harley's hammer and what Harley's hammer does. Because Harley's hammer is read the sentence. That's what it does. Good luck. And all you got to do is take a power action to do it. Now, there's other complications in regards to equipment. That's just a thing. Nothing is perfect and easy to, like, when they say easier, I'm sure they mean like to the most impatient brain in the world, not necessarily teach my 3-year-old kid how to play HeroClix. But I feel like if they're gonna continue the route they're going, that's okay as well. The resources were a big bear. A lot of players were using them, but before resources existed, we didn't use those. When relics showed up, we adapted to that. Relics went to resources. Resources are going back down to equipment. It's all just the level of adaptation. As long-term players, I've seen as a long-term player, I've seen feat cards, resources, equipment, relics, just everything they tried to add into the game. Some of it worked. Some of it I was very angry about. I still vehemently think battlefield conditions and feats were the worst things ever. And then when they introduced special powers, it's like, can we get rid of these? It still took them 3 or 4 sets to get rid of them.
They need new ones.
But when resources showed up, people were vehemently against that, except for players in the competitive field. I feel like the equipment is a perfect bridge between the casual player and the competitive player where we don't have to fight about it. But equipment is on the board, does one thing, pick it up, go. Like, so that, as my rambling has continued, the long and the short of it is, I don't think they're going to reintroduce resources as resources. I think they've already reintroduced resources as equipment. Amber, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, you covered most of it, but as you were saying with the legendary weapons and the legendary wielders, there is kind of a hint there that there's going to be some kind of connection between the weapon and their traditional wielder and what that character can do with that weapon. We actually don't even know for sure that a weapon's going to be equipment. I mean, like 99% sure that it's probably going to end up being equipment. But the fact that they're only saying that they are weapons, there's 24 legendary weapons that are going to come in the boosters in the Thor set. That's all we've been given. So, like, I don't see why they wouldn't be equipment, because that's a great mechanic for the game. But who knows? Also on that, we have, as Jason was saying, with like the Punisher van and what we saw with the Quinjet, and to an extent the Turtle van, even though it wasn't actually a resource.
Yeah.
We have 2 new ships coming in for the summer during the Colossal OP. We have the Ferris Airjet, and sorry, we have Deadpool's Merc ship.
What? When did they announce this?
Have I not told you about this?
No!
It is going to be the Quinjet with Deadpool graffiti. So
that's awesome.
We don't know what the dial is going to look like, but those could be furthering our trend of these vehicles coming in with a attached resource element. So that could be what we may end up getting out of resources nowadays, is instead of it being like a big summer event where everybody collects the resource and everybody has to play with the resource. Now it's just gonna be like, hey, we've got these ships that, you know, they have to be on the team if you want to use the resource.
I also feel, though, at the same time, that those ships, we might be overthinking it, and they might not even have resources.
It's true.
They might just be ships, and I'm okay with either. So, all right. Next up, Mike.
All right, this is working on great, because then dovetailing off that topic, the next question I have is, because when a new set comes out, I like to think, all right, now how can I bring this or fold this into my collector set and stuff like that? What can I dust off and it suddenly becomes relevant again? So what do you guys think in regards to the Avengers Defender set, and maybe to a lesser extent the Deadpool set, but what do you think of the Avengers Defenders being more ID card call-in friendly and chameleon friendly? Because there's a lot of low point characters in there. Is there any call-in ID characters use it, and is there anyone else that chameleon can disguise himself as?
Well, we got a 2-part question that is probably a non-answer that is an answer. Part 1, chameleon as a design choice, you have to remember, was made by a HeroClix player who won Worlds. I don't think design choice in any way, shape, or form is necessarily dictated by one player. That was one player with a really great idea. If Patrick happened to be aware of the design choices, the design feature of the game, good on him for catching on to where the game was going and working that into the design of his figure. Subsequently, I feel like a lot of cases, characters are made in a bubble, and that bubble does not include sets prior to it or mechanics that are before it. The Avengers Defenders War only happens to work with ID cards because the word Avengers is in the name of the set. And the Avengers ID cards were based on Avengers characters. So the fact that they're ID card friendly is just a happy accident, courtesy of an old mechanic that is still here, but for how long is the question, right? Ultimately, it's cool for the long term that we still get some extra use out of, because if you think in a modern play, so like not Golden Age, but modern age figures, we're looking at the collection from Nick Fury, Age of the Shield, and the con exclusives and World's Finest sets. Those are going to be the ones that are legal. Now, we didn't get a new She-Hulk in the set, which is unfortunate. And the last She-Hulk, no, we did get an OP kit She-Hulk that's still legal. Never mind, I'm going to shut my mouth about that one. But in a world of Golden Age, Avengers Assemble still has a lot of ID cards that work with the Avengers Defender set. But then when you go forward to the Nick Fury Age of the Shield and look in modern age hero Clix, we got next to nothing courtesy of that set except maybe Black Panther. Right?
That actually just reminded me that Hellcat, we just got a brand new Hellcat, and her ID card is going to retire.
Yep. So you got a player on the map. So long and short of it is, the design sense, it's cool that older ID cards will get some extra stretch out of these, and it'll be easier to call in these characters because some of them can be called in by 35-point dupe. I'm already trying to use that in Canadian Nationals. I'm not kidding myself. Like I'm using World's Finest ID cards with a dupe on my team, and because of the Low Point Justice Society and all the name sharing that Justice Society does with Justice League, I get a lot of extra call-ins courtesy of a 35-point character. I'm excited about that. So it's a happy coincidence that some of the characters will get some extra longevity out of the ID cards, and in a Golden Age sense, it's going to be great. But I don't think in the scope of Modern Age, it's in any way, shape, or form even remotely kind of helpful towards the ID cards. I don't know. This is part of me saying this is because I haven't memorized the ID cards that are in Nick Fury Ages of Shield.
I'm trying to think of what characters, because so many of them came out in Age of Ultron and
Avengers Assemble, and both of those are shifting out of Modern.
Yeah.
And that's a huge chunk of the ID cards.
And Nick Fury was kind of like an afterthought on ID cards when it came down to it, because it was like, okay, which characters haven't we done yet?
Yeah, I'm pulling that up right now. Actually, is Grumps and what's in there, just to make sure we're not talking out of
so we have a slightly more informed
opinion here. So, because Nick Fury Agents of Shield is going to represent the only modern age Marvel ID cards post rotation. Now, again, Golden Age doesn't care about this. So if you're playing a lot of tournaments in the Golden Age, what I'm about to say, it doesn't matter. But in the sense of the bigger picture, Modern Age, the only ID cards from Marvel we're going to have. Sorry, people are also Facebooking me while I do this.
Stop it,
Black Knight, which we just got. Black Panther. Ms. Marvel, we didn't get. Quasar, which we're actually about to lose. Quake, She-Hulk, Shield level 7, Shield level 1, U.S. Agent, War Machine, Bucky Barnes, Moon Knight, Red Hulk, which we completely lost, except for the OP kit one, Spider-Woman, and Venom. Those are our ID.
Two?
What's that?
There were two that could be used from the set: Moon Knight and
Black Panther. Yep. So the big picture is actually in Modern Age, this is not that big for the ID cards. I mean, Black Knight, we didn't have the legal one, did we?
Was there not a Black Knight in Avengers Assemble?
No, but I think there was one in Age of Ultron. Now that I think about it. So I'm full crap. But for Golden Age sense, yeah, we got a bunch of stuff. I mean, of course, I'm playing short-sighted. Rotation happens in June. It is currently the end of April. We have May, a whole month.
And a couple of nationals.
Sorry, not a whole month, because the set comes out May 10th. Just because we have this stuff doesn't mean the set's out yet. Got it.
Yeah, sorry. May 10th, so we're looking at May 17th. So the very tail end, we have maybe 2 weeks where the set will be legal before rotation for Modern, where you can use these ID cards. Because if you guys are playing Golden Age or Silver Age or whatever fucking age you play at your venue. I'm
gonna go turn off the monetization now.
No, I only said it once, so you can still have a PG rating.
No, PG-13. Anyway, so long and short of it is, puberty just hit me. Long and short of it is, we didn't get that much in the big picture because of rotation. If you're thinking in the Golden Age bubble, yeah, we got lots. But you know, when you play Golden Age, it's such a big library of things that is just almost completely unmetered. And WizKids has gotten to the point. I got on my soapbox a little while ago and I said, if they're going to support the Golden Age, they have to curate it, manage it, and do a lot of work to do it. And they were like, a lot of work? I don't know. Golden Age is just going to be our dumping ground for stuff now. And then, like, they made it very evident with the new rules that Golden Age is now Golden Age judges' problems. So, all right, yeah, that's a long-winded answer for the ID card, the hope for ID cards with Avengers Defenders. Golden Age, Modern Age. All right, Fabricio, did you have another question?
Yes. First, most one addition to what you said. Actually, I think there are more good Marvel ID cards because we still have Shield Hulk, so Jakim is not that secure anymore. Also, since the ATAs are going away, you think they're going to put a replacement or something, or just plainly forget about that?
ATAs were a thing that started with feat cards that kind of lingered too long, in my opinion. Subsequently, they kind of started making them all and then started giving players design control of them. And it got a little Wild Westy to a certain degree. I mean, I feel for the players who won Canadian and U.S. Nationals, got to make one of those, and then all of a sudden, for a couple months later, they're about to go into Golden Age. I feel for those players. Kenji really earned his Canadian Nationals win. Then they had to wait a whole another year until they saw Diplomatic Immunity, which is such an interesting ATA. As far as replacements are concerned, it already started, in my opinion, in Deadpool. Not necessarily as a replacement, but they're just going to say, if we're going to have some version of an alternative team building for a character, we're just going to make it a trait. And if you look at a lot of these specific X-Force characters, they have stealth as a trait. And it's called X-Force. This character has stealth. I think the trend that they're going to move towards is, instead of saying, you built an Avengers team, you can now call them the Secret Avengers. They're going to give the Secret Avengers a trait that they think the Secret Avengers deserve, as opposed to letting any Avenger become a Secret Avenger. And I think that's the direction they're going to go in the future. As well, again, even me as a 15-year veteran of this game, I can't tell you how many times somebody's played an AT and said, okay, what does it do? And then both of us forget it the entire game. So
even on that, like when I went to the WKO in Whitby, I had an opponent who was using an ATA, and I was like, okay, well, what does your ATA do? And he's like, oh, I don't have it with me. It's like, that's no. But I don't know how many times as a judge I've had players be like, oh, I put an ATA on my team. It's like, okay, so what does your ATA do? It's like, oh, I don't have it with me. But that's part of the rules. It is like top of my list of the amount of things that players have forgotten as a judge going into like higher competitive level tournaments too, of players just not bringing their ATAs with them because it's all print and play now. It's not something that was physically given out to every player. So to add it in, yeah, it's great to click that box on HC Realms, but what do you do when now you go to a tournament? And I've had to print it out for players. I've had to write it out for players where it's like, if you want to use this game element, it's got to be there for your opponent to see it. You can't just have it on your phone.
Surprise! You definitely can't use your phone in a high competitive tournament.
Exactly.
It is against the rules.
So personally, as a judge, I'm glad they're going away because they're just a pain. And I think that they didn't do enough to keep them in the game because ATAs are the one game element, even like originally we thought it was con exclusive, but right now ATAs is the only game element that never retired. None of them were attached to a set. None of them were even attached to when they were released. So just every year we're coming up with more and more ATAs. We have a library of 100 ATAs. I don't know how many times I had players ask me if I could dial it up on each individual ATA, and I flat out said no. I'm like, I'm not going to do a 10 episode series to go over 100 ATAs and explain how each one works, because it's just too much. And like, into with adding like an ATA trait. We're seeing it even in Avengers Defenders War with Marvel Knights. Every Marvel Knight has the ability to either their attack can't go below 10, or they're all wild cards. That's something that you would have paid like 2 points for to add to every character as an ATA. Now it's just built in. And you don't have to have a theme team to use those traits. Those traits are just built into that character.
So, yeah, ATAs are not gone. They're just hiding them from you now. That's what they're doing. All right. Mike.
Alrighty. Let's see where else could. Okay. How about I like to build theme teams and everything like that. I've got a soldier team that I'm very fond of, but I'm also kind of gravitating towards an armor theme team. And I want to get your opinion on the strength of pieces with the armor keyword. Like we had the Captain Iron America, the Ajax is pretty. He's got an armor keyword into it like that. So. What do you guys think of the armor keyword and the potential of having some nice combinations of teams through that keyword?
Before I answer the question, I do have one back just before I start answering. Golden Age or Modern Age?
Okay, so more or less Modern Age.
Modern Age, okay. Any character whose name rhymes with Schmeirenschman should be a good choice for armor. I think he wears some. I'm not sure.
I feel like there was a Guardians of the Galaxy or 2 character that had at least armor. Or is that Robot?
No, that's Robot.
Okay, there's
Little
a
Man.
Robot in there.
Rocky Raccoon is a robot. Spoiler alert! Who else? Who else is armor off the top of my head? I keep wanting to go to that 10th anniversary Blue Beetle because he was so good, and I used him so much. But I got it.
So many.
I am
at the time that Invincible Iron Man came out, you were running rampant with like theory crafting that armor keyword.
Oh yeah, remember? Like I had a team with the Book of Skulls back in the day, run by Split Lip, who happened to have our armor. And again, this is one of those things we've run into. It's like I was really hoping you'd actually answer Golden Age because there's a ton of really good Golden Age. It's a keyword that kind of got forgotten in the mix because we lost. A lot of things that suddenly got armor. So I'm doing that thing again where I'm going to go on HC Realms, use the advanced search to look for the armor keyword, and just be like kind of sift through it. Well, of course, there's a Hulkbuster if you're crazy. Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't hit search. My bad. The Punisher van is armor? Really?
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, I guess the Samurai Spider-Gwen would be. Oh, gee, here we go. Common Cable.
Yes. The cable's awesome.
The Common Cable from Deadpool X-Force is amazing. Ajax, you mentioned, is a really good character. I'm just going through. Spider-Man 2221 is terrible. But Spider Knight is really good. Spider Knight and the Spider-Man, I guess they call it the manga version of him, where he can leap, climb, and then make an attack with like 4 damage, 11 attack. And he's got that Spider Family thingamabobber is really good. And I've all of a sudden accidentally hit back and lost my search. So
Scrub.
Noob. I'm a noob scrub. Noob scrub. Modern Age armor. Come on. Amber, any of them come to your mind?
The new Iron Man from the Avengers Defenders. It's the only thing that's coming to mind because it's the only thing I can think of.
Which one? The super rare or the 55-point one?
The super rare.
Okay, the super rare. Well, they're both good, actually. The 55.1 for 55 points. The 55.1 for 55 points.
Your youngest son is 20 years old?
At the Department of Redundancy Department. Colossus generally has armor, but he's usually pretty bad.
The Deadpool Colossus wasn't that bad.
But he's also not that great.
No.
It's one of those things, brawlers in all senses just never really stand the test of time as far as they're concerned. The word Iron Man comes up so frequently in the Marvel side of this. Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is a good armor keyword.
Ooh.
Yeah. Firefly could have been better. Wow. DC has got it's got the world's finest Batman, the Chase. It's got Steel. Amber, Steel. Steel.
No, that figure didn't exist. Stop.
Steel.
No.
Look, he's so good.
Shut up.
You got invincible and willpower, Amber.
No, it's so bad.
War Wheel. So you got point filler for it too. Oh,
yes,
look.
Colossal Retaliation.
Superman, Wonder Woman, Lex Luthor in the green armor.
Oh, with the green armor. I was like,
Oddly-
why is Lex getting armor?
That Lex Luthor from Superman, Wonder Woman has armor keyword. Trinity War
No.
does not. So I feel like that's an oversight.
His power armor isn't armor enough.
So in the modern age, you get really limited by that keyword. And I like to call this the forgotten keyword syndrome. Well, what'll happen, and this happened with Animal for a little bit, is Animal all of a sudden had a character that made the keyword great, became viable, and they kept making a ton of characters while Alyosha Craven existed. And it's like, not only is this character great, but he is bumped up by the fact that Alyosha Craven exists. Armor exists as a keyword, which is great, and you get to you can bolster it. You know who I forgot? Any armor character is great when adding Jocasta, because Jocasta, the rare from Age of Ultron, currently still modern.
She's still modern.
She can be put on a character with armor. She is very frequently forgotten, and the fact that she can share her power.
Oh, there she is.
There she is. Look, the easiest equipped character to get your hands on, Miss Jocasta. That starting click power that she has, where she can give Perplex within a range of 3 and Outwit, is pretty potent in the long term, especially when you're perplexing your own characters, right? Is that the first click? Yeah. Okay, so I might be wrong. I don't know. Either way.
Is that not her trait?
I don't know. I can't remember.
She has a power. It does things.
Yeah, she's an option to make a character with armor that you want to be better. Nothing wrong with that. She can give +1 to a stat that she's got higher, or she can also give that character Perplex to make another stat higher, and also add an Outwit. Now she later gets Perplex herself. She gets Ranged Combat Expert, all that kind of stuff. She's a really good option to really bolster your armor keyword team. That said, if you're strictly building with armor, you got some work ahead of you right now in the modern age. And a lot of your team might be named Iron Man. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a side effect of these things happening. Amber, we're good?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. So armor used to be great. It's forgotten now. Could get better soon. Who knows?
We might see something pop up with Mighty Thor.
Animal's making a comeback. I'm telling you.
I imagine a lot of the legendary warriors from Mighty Thor would have armor.
Maybe. We'll see. They're definitely going to have Asgardian, I'm sure. Asgardian's going to make a comeback in a big way.
Yes.
All right. Next up, Fabricio.
Thor the Mighty Frog.
Yeah.
Is you already announced for that set?
Probably.
Also,
Sorry,
real question. WizKids has brought along a lot of really good con-exclusive figures like the Bad Knight and the Bad Hound and Spider-Gwen and all that stuff. Don't you think it's a little bit somehow unfair that they are such nice figures, but they're at the same time really good, like really strong, but they're con-exclusives, so not all players can get it, and all those who want them just because of the strength or how powerful they are, and such, they cannot get it easily or get it at all.
This is every time a con exclusive character shows up that's good on a team, gets this connotation of, oh my gosh, why did they make it con exclusive? And it's a weird state right now. Con exclusive figures are pretty good, but none of them are really good in a bubble. Like, for instance, the Bat Knight itself is a pretty good 65-point character, but he's better on a team that really can help him get bolstered. And because that team is so good, that really helps make him look that much better. And that's kind of that thing we see. It's like, oh my gosh, that team included a con exclusive. Is there another way to get around that? Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. And the problem with the con exclusive is that locally, and I believe, I don't remember, you were in Costa Rica?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, got it. All right, I remember where our fans are from now. You might not necessarily get the number of big tournaments that we have in North America. Canada, we get less than the U.S. U.S. has more than a lot of everybody else. Europe might have about the same as us or less. We're not sure. And then different areas get different figures. And it's the con exclusive is the holy grail of things. And we used to be in the same mindset as you, which hurts, which makes it really hard for me to answer your question, because right now, in the sense of, oh my gosh, it's going to get better. I can't promise that. It did get better for us, but it's not necessarily guaranteed going to get better for everybody. And the problem with competitive play too is that if something is good, people are going to use it. That's just gonna happen. That's unavoidable. So when they make a con exclusive figure like a Felix Faust or on that level, that is just must have, I can understand people getting incredibly upset. And the fact that WizKids only makes these exclusive to these particular events, I can see irking other people. And what ends up becoming the problem, and it's never because those figures are good. Ace of Bat Hound is okay, but not in a bubble. The Bat Knight is good, again, not necessarily in a bubble. But what ends up happening is it's not how good those figures are becoming that becomes the price increaser. The fact that they're good increases their demand, and the absence of them makes them more expensive. It's actually supply demand, as anybody would say. I just want to try to avoid it to make it say, because I feel like that's like it's supply and demand feels like, you know, I'm condescending, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to explain that because they release so few of them, it becomes expensive, and then if you live in another country and you got to pay the shipping, it gets even more expensive. I don't think that's WizKids' intent. In fact, in the past couple years, past 2 years at the very least, the con exclusives have been okay, but none of them particularly game breaking in a bubble. Understand that in a bubble, I'm like the character on its own might not be wrecking the world, but it might be part of a bigger whole that's being combined with things, and that ends up missing design space. And that's, I hate to make this assumption, but I'm under the assumption that the design space does have some blinders on it. And oftentimes, because one set's being designed over here and one set's being designed over there, we might miss something over here and something over here. And if con exclusives are being tested over here, but this set, 2 sets down, might make one of these broken, that's being missed because these guys aren't necessarily aware of what's going on here. That's in the big picture what it feels like is occurring in design and WizKids. But this is one of those things that I feel like the size of the company is what's causing that, and that's unfortunate. That's an unfortunate side effect of limited resources to the scope of what we want to occur. I've talked around the issue greatly. So be a little bit more direct. Yeah, it sucks when a con exclusive shows up and it's good, and you don't have the option to go to the cons, and you have to pay the secondary market price because, my gosh, it feels like a fleecing. But coming from a guy who has gone into these events and gone to get these figures, the availability of these events doesn't necessarily suddenly make these con exclusives cheap. You have to get them. And in a lot of cases, like one like the Bad Knight, you have to win it. Or somebody else has to not pick it at the table of the Battle Royale, or you have to do well enough at a certain type of event. They're not just hand-me-outs. And what's worse is you have to get to these events. Now, when I say an event is close, I could very well be talking about an event being held in Windsor, which is a 4-hour drive from where we are right now. So if I have to drive 4 hours, I got to assume the travel costs. Now, me and Amber don't drive, so either we're paying for gas for a friend, or we're paying for like a train ticket or some kind of travel mode. That's a lot of money. And then we have to, if it's, you know, over multiple days, well, damn, we got to get a hotel room. That ain't free either. So the cost of honestly buying a con exclusive on the internet, when you do the math in the end, is almost significantly cheaper than getting out to that event and getting your hands on it. And that's, I don't want to tell people that, but it's the God's honest truth. Like, I look back and say, my God, I used to buy con exclusives on the internet. What a sucker. Holy smokes, how much did it cost us to go to Worlds? I'm not even going to Worlds, and it's costing me a ton. Amber, do you have anything you wanted to add on? I kind of went on a soapbox on that one.
Actually, no, I had a couple of points on that, and like base point, as Jason said, it sucks. There's no real way getting around that, and it sucks for multiple reasons too. Now, I almost feel like saying that the introduction of the WKOs and the widespreadness of the WKOs is a bit of a cop-out now, because as much as, yeah, now we have these extra tournaments year-round, where it was originally just Nationals and Worlds, like, that's still, you might not have them near you, or they might not be in your country, or as Jason said, they're just hard to get to when it comes down to it. We've been lucky enough that the 2 WKOs in our area have been in Whitby, where I managed to go to, and in Ottawa, which Jason managed to travel to. But even still, going down to Ottawa was still like a 5-hour drive for him.
It's a long day for me. Because we drove that for the Ottawa WKO, we drove down, we played the tournament, and then we left from the tournament. I was a wreck by the end of that. The physical toll it took on me, the fact that we were drinking the night before too.
He came home and just went right into the bathroom and threw up.
That was
it. That's how I knew he was home. But yeah, so like that does feel like a cop-out where it's like, oh, but hey, they're more available now. It's like, but not really.
Still not 100% available.
And then the other thing on that is it really, really sucks for the collectors. I remember just how incredibly irate I was when Old Man Logan came out, because it was at the point where we didn't have WizKids level tournaments in Canada. I spent $110 to get them off the internet, which was, hey, I had a job at the time. That was my money.
Then how did I end up paying for it?
You didn't.
I did.
Anyway, that was still like, it was so annoying because, like, for me, I'm a Wolverine collector, so it's like I have to have all the Wolverines, and then 2 of them were con exclusives, and which, yeah, were really bad figures, but they were Wolverines. I have a friend who's a really big Batman fan. The only time Ace the Bat Hound has ever been made was as a con exclusive. So it sucks when, even more so when you have a specific character you collect, or when they introduce a character for the first time and it's a con exclusive. And I don't know how many times they had characters that were unclicked in the game and made them a con exclusive. And that's when it really, really gets under your skin, and that's when it really sucks and it really burns. And it's like, why are you doing this? Why do you do this to us? But then on the flip side, as from a business standpoint, they want to make sure that they're good enough prizes for you guys to want to win. So it's like, if they're all crappy characters and they're all crappy dials, why are you coming to our tournaments? So it's like there does have to be that certain level of incentiveness to be like, hey, look at these.
Incentive was the word you're looking for.
Incentiveness, though. I said the way I wanted to say it. To get these characters, to get players out to collect these characters.
The players are characters. I've been to these tournaments.
Very good.
All right. So I kind of hope you understand that we sympathize with you. We really do. And it sucks when they make them good and hard to get our hands on. But ultimately, if you're playing at a certain competitive level, that's one of the things you kind of accept. You know, you get to a certain level, it's like, well, if I need to have a figure, it's going to cost me. And as I feel like the desire to be competitive is often blocked in some players' minds by the money, and that draws a level of ire. And you're allowed to have that level of ire, but you do have to understand is that if you have that level of ire, do you have the real drive or the real means to become competitive? And subsequently, though, on the other side of the coin, is that drive to be competitive worth that money? And I'm going to tell you, 99%, sometimes it doesn't feel like it's worth that money until you've had the fun and the pleasure of seeing the live HeroClix competitive scene, and just the players are the best. They're great. Even if you do lose or they lose, in a lot of cases, players are just really good to be around. Well, goodness. Of course they're good. They're competitive. So, we don't have the answer that you want to hear per se, but you do have our sympathies because we spent a lot of years.
I didn't want an answer. Sorry. I didn't want an answer. I just wanted an opinion because I know the drive to be competitive and the desire to have those figures and all that. Sometimes hard, sometimes easy. I know it's sometimes worth just to pay those $60 for that Zeus because I'm not going to win that event and I want it.
Yeah.
So I get it. Just wanted opinion.
Yep. All right. As long as that's all you wanted.
That we can do.
That I can give. At great length, whether you like it or not. All right, Mike.
So this is like so cool. Fabricio, can you see my notes here? Like this is so weird. It's like everything he wants to talk about, it can, I can play off of my notes here, like that. Because then here's another question I was interested in asking. Speaking about the whole regional like strength of the regional communities and stuff like that. Since I kind of rely on you guys and Tom and Jay and everyone like that about the strength of the game up north. Well, what about out west like that? A lot of is there still a strong following for like the people from BC or anything like that? What do you guys have to say about do you think you'll ever go back out there for a big event or something like that, or are they gonna go back to flip flopping, kind of like instead of being all Ontario centric and hold world Canadian nationals out there or something like that?
As far as the level of Canadian nationals is concerned, WizKids is dealing with specific people and stores in Canada when it comes to the level of nationals, and that store itself is kind of playing the population game, but they're also playing the cost game. They're a store. They do have to eat a certain level of cost in order to run Canadian nationals. They have to have a certain number of packs on hand in order to run sealed qualifiers and battle royales, which means they have to buy that courtesy of WizKids. Secondly, WizKids is giving them the prizes, but at the cost of buying all of this product. Secondly, that store has to run the event, and that ain't free. They have to give some of these prizes or some way of incentive to get the judges on board. They have to have a venue that can operate the event. Now, Carta Magica was a great venue for Canadian Nationals for a little bit, but the population in Ottawa is not necessarily the size of Toronto. Toronto's got a higher population base. It's also closer to the airport, easier to travel to. Now, Ottawa does have an airport, but I'm not sure about the travel level compared to that Carta Magica. I'd have to ask Drake Conrad. He's a great player, and he does make that flight from Toronto to Ottawa instead of driving like the rest of us suckers. But he travels a lot for work, so he gets to do it on his air miles. Wonderful, wonderful perk for his job. Long story short, the reason it's Ottawa-centric is because, Ontario-centric is because the store that's operating it, owned by some fellows in Quebec, they want to limit they've been limiting their cost of holding an event to hold it closer to themselves. So I do appreciate them having to do that. If a store in BC had the relationship with WizKids to do this, then I'm sure that store would run it in BC because they don't want to travel across the country in order to hold Canadian Nationals. That just doesn't make sense for them. They'll hold it in BC, which is close to them. But what I feel would happen with that store is I don't know if they would get the number of players that we would get for Canadian Nationals in Ontario. As an example, somebody running tournaments in BC attempted to run a regional, which is one of the higher level rock events. Now, they're running that event at the same time as Canadian Nationals. Now, they thought Canadian Nationals is what ruined the number of players that would go there. I would have to personally say I don't think that's actually the case. When we were at Canadian Nationals, maybe 1 or 2 players came from out west at best. And I honestly...
Out of like 100 players.
Out of like 100 players, yeah. Myself and Amber, even if Canadian Nationals wasn't happening, I don't know anybody in our area that would travel out west for a rock regional. That's a heck of an undertaking, cost-wise, time-wise, and then you'd have to adjust to the time. Like, everything about that just didn't work for our schedules at all. So, and then that regional itself, they only got a certain number of players. And unfortunately, the guy who ran this event did lose money. And I feel for him. I really do. But unfortunately, I don't think the region has the player base to run a tournament of that size. To that degree. But at the same time, it could just be they didn't understand the rock versus an actual WizKids event kind of thing. It could have been advertised. It could have been any number of factors. I don't want to immediately speculate as to why this was not necessarily a thing. What I do know is I don't feel Canadian Nationals was the reason his event didn't do particularly well. I again can't think of a single player in the Ontario area that was even planning on going to a regional in BC. It's a hard area for us to get to because, and you seem to understand it. This is a big country. We're the biggest landmass as a country out there. So, it just happens that like 90% of our population is 100 miles from the border.
We're all really cramped up against America, but we're not in America.
No. It's warmer down there.
We get as southern as we can. We're southern. We're more southern than some states are right now.
Yeah. Now, if Canadian Nationals were to be held out west, would I make the trip? Maybe, but it would definitely hinder my ability to go to Worlds, which in turn would make me go, is that worth it versus Ohio? So on a personal level, and I don't think locally any of the players in the Ontario area or the Greater Toronto area necessarily, I don't even think any players in Ontario would make the trip. And here is the problem with HeroClix. The payoff at the end of it isn't worth that kind of trip. So if you're running a Canadian national event, unfortunately, the people organizing it are playing the population game. And the population game wins in Ontario versus, say, BC. And now if there was a better payoff, a better end game, or a better low game even, a worthwhile reason to go that far for HeroClix, you might get more players to travel, because players travel for Magic because you can play Magic as a job. Players don't travel for HeroClix because HeroClix isn't even remotely close to a job in what you get from your prizing in game. Heck, people claiming that we're the most popular HeroClix channel out there, and if that is true, we can't even do this as a job. And that's just on the YouTube numbers alone, right? And I mean, we do get some support from the Patreon patrons. Thank you guys. But the HeroClix community isn't that big or that motivated to go that far. And everybody goes, "Oh, why is it all the way across the country for me?" Well, unfortunately, the big picture is that the people organizing it are trying to maximize the number of people that are going to show up, and the most number of people are going to show up if the population is already there. So yeah, long story short, would I go out west if finances were not a thing? Like the 3 things that are sleeping upstairs, I feed them. This place that they all live in, we have to pay for that, I need to eat apparently. I mean, work feeds me to a certain degree, but not all the time, right? So, unfortunately, that's kind of the big picture of it all, in my opinion on it. If given the option and I did have the financial clout to just go out west on a whim or for a HeroClix tournament, sure, I'd go. But, again, population game wins. But anything you want to add?
Not so much, but before we started getting tournaments up here, and we had before the show happened and the podcast and the YouTube craze kind of hit HeroClix, there was one Canadian HeroClix team, Department H, and they made it to Worlds regularly each year. But as we don't really hear from them anymore. I have no idea what the
now part of that
West,
is.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. I don't know what the West is like for HeroClix. We don't hear from them. I know a few players every now and then that pop up that are from Alberta or Edmonton or Vancouver, but I don't know what the scene's like over there. I don't know how popular it is anymore, if people are still playing. As I mentioned, Department H, the 2 big names that I know out of there were Patricia Lamb and Rob Barazul. And Patricia Lamb moved to the States. So she's not even living in Canada anymore. And I think since his daughter was born, Rob hasn't really been playing HeroClix.
I saw him at Worlds this past year. So.
Okay, so maybe... I know he just his name doesn't pop up as much as it used to. So that's one of the things where it's like our high-level Canadian players, you don't even hear from them anymore, especially players from out west. So if you guys are having an awesome, thriving HeroClix community out west, I'd love to hear about it. I hope you guys do have one.
I'm just going to quickly check the chat to see if the... Oh, my gosh! All right. Keep going.
But yeah, I hope there is a great community out there, but we just, like I said, we don't hear about it. And so many of the podcasts and the YouTube community are from the States. There are a couple in the UK.
Why can't somebody have the UK HeroClix?
Yeah, Agents of Clix.
I haven't seen them yet.
So there's...
Sorry, Agents of Clix, I've been busy.
So there's one in the UK, but most are in the States. So, and that is the community that we hear about the most because we're a part of it. So yeah, when it comes to getting all of this back to nationals, this is the part of the country that you hear the most noise from. And as we know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, or whatever but however that saying is actually supposed to go. So yeah, I don't see Canadian nationals, especially as Jason say, with Cartamagia kind of having the relationship that they've had of having run it the last 3 years and this year. to suddenly jump ship to a different store. I feel like something catastrophic would have to happen.
Somebody would have to hit somebody. Somebody would have to
relationship
get angry.
for them to go somewhere else.
So I'm hoping that some of the convincing that some of the players did to get it to Toronto does pay off for the guys that run Counter Magica. I'd hate for them to show up and just end up kind of getting the same sort of numbers. And I would feel bad for the guys because, to a certain degree, there's a little bit of selfishness every time you say, run it in this area, it's going to be great. The reason you're saying that is because it's close to you.
Yeah.
That's 100% of the case. You want a HeroClix tournament in your area, that's because you want it to you. Honestly, as far as a national level of event is concerned, maybe it's time to drop that and just go with more WKOs. Do significantly more regional events so players don't feel isolated when something like Canadian Nationals does come around. Maybe just continue to have Worlds in the US and at Origins. Origins Game Fair is a great event. It's worth having a good relationship with. You get some attracted eyes to what's going on with WizKids, as well as a central place for everybody to play the game in. That said, again, maybe a national level is not worth it if the player base is making the right noise and the right number of players in a lot of areas are coming there. When I hear 2 people from Saskatchewan mention that they wish Nationals was in Saskatchewan, you got to understand WizKids' eyes is, well, there's 2 players in Saskatchewan. All right? And I just picked a province out of nowhere. I don't know how many there might be 100 HeroClix players in Saskatchewan, but WizKids is reading the wind. This is where they get their numbers from. So if your numbers reflect what they want to see, you're going to get their attention, I think, is the big picture.
Oh.
All right. Mauricio.
I got no more questions, but one thing I want to say is, sorry, 1 second.
Sorry, we've been doing that all day too.
How to say it? The people from Guatemala, the HeroClix community there is going to make a national tournament in these times where us lesser countries don't have one, or least interesting ones. We don't have a big national event from Whiskey and all. They're making a really nice effort to make a big tournament, something to make people attract to the game and have a nationals anyways. So it's like a national tournament, and even they invited us. A lot of people from here are going there actually. So just to show how the community thrives, even in hard times.
Yeah. Understand, when WizKids runs a national event, and just to kind of jump on your point, when WizKids runs a national event, that just means WizKids itself is supporting and providing the prizing. It's not that your country is ignored and not allowed to have a national tournament. If WizKids isn't necessarily supporting it, run your own. And if you do happen to run your own, make sure the numbers get in the win. I stress that greatly because you can run any tournament you want on the win as long as you're just recording it properly. And what's great is it's a tournament resource that helps you organize the tournament, but as well, WizKids gets the metrics on that tournament. If all of a sudden you put out a tournament and name it, the Guatemalan Nationals or the Mexican Nationals or the whatever other country may not actually have one of the 12 national tournaments that they have, and you get 50, 60 to 100 people showing up for it, you get WizKids' attention. They watch these metrics for a reason, and the metrics they catch are the metrics that are big. They're not paying attention to our 6-man tournament at the Comic Warehouse. But when all of a sudden 30 people show up at the Comic Warehouse, you have our attention. What are you doing? Right? And I think that's one thing I want to stress. If, as a player, you feel that WizKids is ignoring your locale, ignoring your big tournament, or ignoring, your country for WizKids, WizKids Nationals, title a tournament, X Nationals, prize it. Unfortunately, a store might have to prize it out of their own pocket. But if you want the WizKids support, you got to catch their eye, get their attention, and get them to show up with those metrics. They're not gonna they're gonna kind of sit there and go, we haven't seen a tournament with 50 people in your country. Why are we gonna run it? You run a tournament, you call it the Nationals, you do something, and then WizKids goes, you got 60 people to a tournament. You have our attention. And the store that ran it gets on their radar, and then that's when the conversation starts to occur. As well, WizKids wants you playing as many of their games as possible in your store. Locally, we have a really big, well-known game store in Toronto called 401 Games. But 401 Games, as a venue itself, if you were to see it, you were to be aware of it, you would be like, why aren't they running the Canadian National Tournament? Well, part of it is that they don't run Dice Masters and Attack Wing. And all of a sudden, the store in Whitby over there, Comic Book Addiction, they are running consistent Dice Masters and HeroClix and Attack Wing. If all three of those games are getting played, WizKids is going to have a Nationals event. Because we get focused because we're all HeroClix players. Why don't we have a HeroClix Nationals? Well, that's not what WizKids is running. They're running a WizKids Nationals for HeroClix and Dice Masters. I don't think Attack Wing is even on the map anymore for competitive play.
I don't think it got the numbers it needed last year.
Yeah, even the Worlds didn't seem to have a great number of people, and it sounded like some shenanigans was occurring. I don't know. That was hearsay from a third, fourth to eighth party. I heard it from a player, heard it from a player, heard it from a player, heard it from a player who told the HeroClix player, and the HeroClix player told me. So, broken telephone, I probably got nonsense. If you're in one of those countries, doesn't get a national event, try to get something big. Get yourselves on the radar. I hope you can make it out to that Guatemala Nationals that may not necessarily be WizKids Nationals, but is being run by a store willing to do the extra work to get a tournament of that size. And hopefully a lot of people do show up to the event. So WizKids realizes, hey, there is a player base in this area. Perhaps it's time to do it.
The only thing I can add to that is that fingers crossed, they just keep getting better. Even 2-3 years ago, we only had U.S. Nationals, Canadian Nationals, and I believe UK Nationals.
There was an Mexican Nationals last year.
No, 2 or 3 years ago. No. This year, there's 12 different Nationals. So we can only hope that that number is just going to increase and keep going and keep going and keep going. Hopefully, we get to the point where there is a Nationals in every country that has a big HeroClix community. I know that's probably WizKids' goal at this point is, hey, let's support as many players as we can internationally. That being said, even when we were working with the marketing team from WizKids to get our product reviews, there was a point in time where we didn't think we were going to be able to do it because they're like, well, you live in a different country, it's hard to send you product. And that is a hurdle that they have to go through when it comes to being able to support stuff like this. Is they ship out of the US, so they have to go through what is shipping cost for them, what does that entail, what kind of customs do they have to go through, the time frame of when they can get that stuff out. That does seem like it could be trivial things, but something even as simple as having to ship overseas could be a reason for not having Nationals that year.
Distributors can be an issue too.
That as well.
I understand that's actually a problem in South America. Some of the distributors are, let's just say, not good. So we got you back. We hope that things turn out well in your area. Just remember to get those events out there and see what's up. All right, Mike, I got WizKids on my or HC Realms on my phone, but I don't know how much battery power I have left.
All right. All right, so I'm getting down to the nitty gritty too. So just a last couple like kind of throwaway questions. Now I'm thinking about building a team with Squirrel Girl, and I noticed she has the Avengers like keyword there, and what I wanted to ask you, have you guys tried her on an Avengers team, or do I just say, okay, screw it, she's not really worth it, just either put her on a meta team or just on a fun team, or just play her, don't worry about that type of stuff like that. Just if I build a team around her like that, don't worry about the keywords, just play her. But my the real question is like, does she work on a Avengers team?
I got a long-standing joke about the Avengers keyword. What do you want your team to do? What do you want your team to do, Amber?
I do realize the question does kind of like revolve around who else can I put on it, but
Avengers is an incredibly wide keyword, but why go with Avengers? Why not Animal?
Your chipmunk team is still my favorite thing ever. Only because you did it because I dared you.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, at our last rock event, it was a little Winamap event that we went to, and I had 0 prep time, and I was like, all right, somebody else build a team for me. Give me ideas. Let's see. And I believe it was Pedro came up with Squirrel Girl and I think like 10 Tippy Toes. I didn't have 10 Tippy Toes.
But you did have 5.
I did have 5 and Chipmunk Hunks. So I played an 11-figure team comprised of Squirrel Girl, 5 Tippy Toes, 4 Chipmunk Hunks, and a Koi Boy. And it was Animal keyword. And I got map roll every game.
Amber, you won map roll before the roll started in a lot of cases.
Slaughtered. But yeah, no, like the Animal keyword is super strong. Even outside of the wackiness of having a ridiculous amount of Tippy Toes and Chipmunk Hunks, there are a lot of really good animals. Sure, why not put her on an Avengers team? When it comes down to it, why not put anybody on an Avengers team? Because everybody has the Avengers keyword.
Modern Age Avengers on HC Realms. HC Realms doesn't even have Avengers Defenders War on their site yet, and I got 239 results. I'm pretty sure if you want a team to do something with the Avengers keyword, it's in there somewhere.
But hey, if we want to get super stylish for our Avengers, why not make a pseudo A-Force team and just use all female Avengers to go with it? Or I'm pretty sure you could probably make a team of animal Avengers.
Yeah. Yeah, you could probably do that too. Or if you happen
and by that, I mean characters that have both the Avengers and the animal keyword, if that was not clear.
Yeah, she didn't mean the pet Avengers. That was cute for a little bit until they didn't make a hairball. Made a lockjaw and hairball. And made the split and merge stats for it. We never got a hairball to split to. What the hell?
Didn't also take them like 10 cents to get another lockjaw to split into? Or no, there was a lockjaw in that set.
No, there wasn't a lockjaw. There was just lockjaw and hairball and chaos war. Then we didn't get lockjaw again until Guardians of the Galaxy.
Why make it a duo? Silly designers.
No, it's not why make it a duo. It deserved to be a duo. It's why put the split and merge on it. That's my question. The split and merge requirements. It didn't make sense to me. But again, this is where I get the idea that they used to not be as feature sighted as they are now. But I still think there's some blind spots that they might have.
Well, it was like the con-exclusive World's Finest duo, the split and merge on that. The characters didn't exist.
Yet.
Then they did make a Huntress and a Power Girl, but the Huntress and the Power Girl that they made weren't the Huntress and Power Girl that are on World's Finest.
Oh, oversights exist. Well, they're not the exact models, but they were based on the New 52 Earth 2 version.
Yeah, but you have so it wasn't Kara Zor-El. It was the requirement name was like Karen Starr or something, but her real name on her card was Kara Zor-El. So like the real name didn't match up, and same with the Huntress. It was supposed like the Huntress that we got was Helena Bertinelli, but it wasn't Helena
You
Wayne.
didn't need the real name.
I know you didn't need the real name, but
you're waxing intellectually or unintellectually.
No, why bother?
You're fighting semantics.
Why bother put the real name on the card?
You're always up for semantics.
When nobody had those real names.
Just in case. It's always just in case. The real name is the least important part anyway.
But the real answer is always play Squirrel Girl. If you can play Squirrel Girl, always play Squirrel Girl.
I'm not playing Squirrel Girl tomorrow. Well, my team is nonsense tomorrow. I should really show it to you. Because you're going to look at that and go, are you kidding me? It's a 400-point modern limited team.
Make an A-Force.
You want to hear what my team is? Want me to tell the internet?
I think we should see what
what
else Michael has
what else
to say.
Mike has to say? Okay, I won't announce my team tomorrow.
All right. So this one other question is, what is your favorite Rocket Raccoon? I played the judge in my local store and he brought a team that had like 4 different Rocket Raccoons, and a couple other pieces like that. It was a really really bad team to hit at range. So, but what is your favorite Rocket Raccoon, and what do you think is the best Rocket Raccoon?
Hey Jason, what's your favorite Rocket Raccoon?
Let me tell you what my favorite Rocket Raccoon is. It's the one from the Guardians of the Galaxy main set. That was a super rare. That was part of my police team. He's awesome. I think I broke Amber with that one. Yeah, the one from Guardians of the Galaxy, the super rare, the one that's able to re-roll a roll, and when he does it, he's not using probability control. Is so good. I loved him so much, and he ignores elevated terrain for line of fire. He had running shot and a really high attack, really reasonable damage. If he happened to take some damage and lose that ability, he gained range combat expert. He's really good. I like him a lot. He's the best Rocket Raccoon ever!
Is that the rocket I used on the animal team?
No.
No, that was a
No,
different
because
rocket,
that was the Rocket Raccoon I used in my police team was released after the one that you used in the from the movie set. I broke the breeze on the internet with my reaction to what my favorite Rocket Raccoon is. Amber, what is your favorite Rocket Raccoon? Yours was the start. The one that you used.
Yeah,
was
the starter set one. I don't even remember what he does anymore, but I remember loving him. I don't remember why.
I cannot wait to use either duo of Rocket and Groot.
Yeah.
Either the con exclusive one or the brand new one with Little Baby Groot. So cool looking. It's super adorable. Yeah. So, yeah, my favorite version is the Galactic Guardian Super Rare. I don't know if you caught on to that. Definitely my favorite.
I'm sorry. I figured with you having done that police team and that being like the
one of my top 2 favorite teams that I've ever built.
That I had to.
Top 2 teams. My top 2 favorite teams that I've ever built all started as a joke or me giving up on the meta.
This is how Jason does his stuff. This is what he does.
I swear to God, if I win Canadian Nationals with my team, it's official. I have to give up on the meta before I build my team. Sorry. Oh, man, I've been dealing with this cough, so I apologize for all the coughing we've been doing on the camera, and I can't get to the mute button fast enough to...
Like, we're not sick. It's just to the point where it's like all that's left over is this stupid cough.
Yeah.
It's like every now and then we just kind of cough. It's gross.
All right, Mike.
All right. Last question. I think we got through it all. As in the now live that we're taping it. You might be watching this on another archive or something like that. But as we're taping it now, tomorrow is International Tabletop Day. Do you guys do anything for that up there? Like, have you heard of it? I know my local stores have mentioned it last night, and they're doing something tomorrow. Their stores are going to be open all day, doing something, demoing all kinds of stuff. What do you guys think?
Oddly enough, I have a Rock win a map, and I am playing Magic the Gathering Commander tomorrow night. I got a very busy night tomorrow, busy tabletopping day tomorrow.
Yeah. We don't tend to have events at our stores up here. Also, we don't have a lot of local stores. When it comes down to it, is that and we stress the local part of that because the venue that we go to on a regular, semi-regular basis for our HeroClixing is in a different city. So there is a comic store down the street from us, but they don't do any gaming. So there aren't any big events there. Our big events will be the following week with Free Comic Book Day. Usually we just, as Jason said, we'll have a day of going to HeroClix and then having friends over during the night to play more gaming. So that is how we celebrate our International Tabletop Day.
I feel sorry for you, honey, because this is like I'm leaving you out of International Tabletop Day all day.
Maybe I can get the kids to actually pay attention to Candyland or Snakes and Ladders tomorrow.
Which part of Candyland are you planning on playing? The part over there or the part over there? Honestly, we tabletop games so much, we accidentally celebrate it every year.
Yeah. Usually we just have like a tournament scheduled for that day.
Yeah. I just need to make sure. Is it always April 29th, or is it just always the last weekend of April, which also happens to coincide with the week before Free Comic Book Day? Is there like an actual set thing for that, or is that? I know Geek and Sundry is the guys that made it up.
All right, it's been around this time each year that I've actually paid attention to the date of it.
Yeah, I'll bring it up here real quick.
Next weekend is Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tabletopday.com. Oh, interesting.
They usually have free giveaways for some board games, depending on the stores that are willing to pay for it. Because I remember, I think it was Smash Up had some Will Wheaton stuff.
Yeah, no, they've done a big thing about it too.
Maybe WizKids should have skipped. WizKids is so kind of in that branch with HeroClix. Like, do they give out the Juggernaut on Free Comic Book Day, or do they give it out on International Tabletop Day? It's such a balancing act.
Do they even give it out at all?
Yeah.
Why not both?
That's what I'm thinking. Flood the market. Like they did with that Thor, the Free Comic Book Day Thor. The distributors have so many of them.
Give that away at this point.
Well, yeah, the distributors have so many of them. Every so often, the comic store that we run all of our major events in, they come back from the distributor with hundreds of them because the distributor gives them to them for 10 cents a pop. Because they can't give those things away. So
actually, in our store, when we were starting the game, they sent us like 5 sets of those. So we had like 50 tours to give away.
Oh gosh, none of this is giving me the information I need. I'll have to look into that. Thanks for the link though, Mike.
Alrighty. And you know what else I saw this morning? It's also National Superhero Day on Twitter. I guess everybody was using that hashtag this morning, National Superhero Day. So that's kind of cool that we can do this on that same day too. So all right, that's it. Everything's been crossed out.
You know what's funny? My super villain became a superhero, so I'm wearing a superhero every day. All right.
I am too.
Mike Fabricio, I want to thank you very much for joining us on the Patron Hangout this week. It's been a pleasure answering your questions. You guys had some awesome questions this weekend. I got a chance to I answered one really awesome from Break Amber. I love winning at Break Amber. It's one of my favorite things to do. If you guys want to get in on the Patreon Hangout, check us out at patreon.com/Clix. Right now, we're a little dry as far as rewards are going, but we are currently in the midst of getting our Patreon back under control. We are looking to get action tokens back on the market again. I just have to give my messages back to Big Bully Games. We're looking at some future other ideas for higher level patrons, depending on who you are. It's just going to be things that don't take a lot of my personal time because I don't have a lot of that. So yeah, that was what we used to do with Patreon tokens. We stopped it for a little bit. We're looking to bring it back in style, yo. I apologize. I wait my hat. There we go. Yeah, that's how I gotta wear my hat when I talk like that. So hopefully we can get that back in order very soon. Probably before the end of May is our goal. We're all, again, looking for some more other possible rewards for you guys. But the one that we'll never let go of is Patron Hangout. And we're going to try to get that back on a semi-monthly schedule. Definitely monthly. Once a month. For sure. And we'll try to get out there more often for our patrons. But again, check it out, patreon.com/Clix. Thank anybody who's supporting us right now. You're keeping the editing amazing. And we're looking to rebuild the channel that we built up and then brought back down by me getting a new job.
And as always, we do have the $5 level. Anybody at that level or higher levels does get the early access to any of the edited and pre-filmed content that we did put out. Now I do stress that as in any live stuff goes obviously out live, and any of our WizKids stuff goes out directly to everybody else. So anything that WizKids sponsors, so our unboxings for our boxes and our figure reviews have to go out as soon as we do have them out because WizKids gives us stuff to do that. So thank you, WizKids. But yeah, so anybody at the $5 level or higher will get on the Patreon page a download version of the episodes and early access to them a day or sometimes a week in advance because I'm really bad at putting it out to the public. So you guys get to view it a couple of times before everybody else does.
And of course, hopefully by Monday, we're going to have out Monday for the public, Sunday for the patron, maybe, possibly.
That's fine. Well, you have Commander Night, so I've got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Why not edit some videos?
So Sunday night, hopefully for the patrons, and Monday night for you guys will be a new meta fix. Of course, check us out on the Meta Lab tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sunday night, because it is Friday today. So check us out on Sunday night on the Meta Lab at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because I have this weekend off. But yeah, guys. Again,
wrestling run.
Oh, wrestling! I'm not going to be on the show. I might be a little bit of a wrestling fan. Sorry, guys. We'll see. I might have to be on the show. Oh, no. We'll see. It depends on whether or not I can get the guys right now. Either way, I'm rambling, and we got to get off the air. So thank you guys for, if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you guys are watching the archive, thank you very much. Thank you, Fabricio. Thank you, Mike. You guys all have a wonderful evening.